welcome to Ed Table Talk Unplugged, a show produced by the Communications Section of the Ministry of Education and Technical and Vocational Training, where we, along with numerous stakeholders in the field, dissect issues surrounding education. Today's discussion, managing complaints and accountability in schools. I'm so pleased to have two dynamic school administrators with me today. Principal of T.A. Thompson Junior High School, Ishmael Smith, and Principal at S.C. McPherson Junior High, Shavannah Darville. Lady, gent, welcome. The subject of complaints and accountability is a touchy one, but it is an area that needs much attention and must be addressed professionally so as to ensure the smooth and effective running of our schools. But before we go any further, here's our Lisa Bullard with some facts to get our discussion going. Lisa?
As society advances, people become more conscious of their own rights and interests and have higher expectations for the level of education that should be provided in schools to support the next generation. They put a high value on the administration and services that schools offer. Parents, in particular, are important stakeholders who believe that their children's overall development is crucial. They frequently ask questions, offer opinions, and make recommendations regarding how well schools are performing. Therefore, maintaining effective communication with all of their stakeholders is crucial for schools. Clarity is most important when investigating complaints about schools. It must be handled in a thorough and timely manner. The 7 stages of complaint handling are acknowledgement, assessment, planning, investigation, response, review, and consideration of systemic issues should be clearly outlined. Thank you for watching. I hope you learned something new. For Ed Factoids, I'm Lisa Bullard.
Thanks, Lisa. Again, I am elated to welcome our guests, Ishmael Smith and Shavannah Darville, principals of T.A. Thompson and S.C. McPherson Junior High Schools, respectively. Welcome again. Throughout your years in education, and especially as administrators, you must have seen more than your fair share of complaints, I presume, as you've been in the education system for a while. Complaints coming from the inside, outside, from various, because of various factors. But today I want to focus specifically or primarily on those outside complaints coming from parents, because I know that a school doesn't necessarily have to be a bad run school. It doesn't mean that you're not operating in a good fashion or effective fashion, but there are many reasons why persons complain. You may have bad apples, or persons just want to complain. So let's get right into the discussion. We'll start with you, Ms. Darville. What are the complaints like? I know your school population is about 1,000.
Yes.
And what are those complaints like for you?
Well, when I consider the size of the school population, I don't think that we have that much concern with the amount of complaints that we see come across our desk as administrators. But when they do come, yes, there are complaints about perhaps teachers and whether the child was given the right grade. A lot of complaints are associated with grades. We saw complaints when we went into the virtual environment as to access to classrooms, whether the assignments were submitted in the correct order. And then, of course, there are some of the personal issues between children and what's happening on social media. So they tend to cover the bulk of the complaints that come into the office at SC.
Okay, and Mr. Smith, what about you at T.A. Thompson?
I would not say that it's any different. It's almost like Ms. Darville was reading my mind. I would say, as I will reiterate or restate, Ms. Darville, a lot of the complaints start. So complaints go in a number of tiers. All right. So a general complaint a teacher may have with a student, a parent, they can meet there. It escalates to the principal's office or to the head of administration when it is something often that's unresolvable or appears to be so egregious that a parent feels or a teacher feels or a student feels they must come straight to you. And those fall a lot of times, again, grades, interpersonal skills or interpersonal interaction between parents, use of materials. You also get all of these books. My child hasn't used one page out of this book yet. And so it tends to stem to me from an interest in the well-being of the student and the quality and the recognition of a parent's sacrifice to ensure that the student or their child gets the best that's available for them.
Okay, and when a parent comes to the administration, because you touched on this a moment ago, does that complaint start with you, or do they first go to the teacher? What are you finding? Are they coming straight to administration, skipping the teacher, not trying to resolve it at that level, or coming straight to you?
Sometimes they do. I think we still live as a result of our demographic, as a result of our geography, as a result of where we are. We're a very small community. And when I say small community, relatively speaking, we still know everybody. It's still, you don't know who I is, so that feel for access to the top is prevalent and ingrained in our society. So oftentimes they may ask to speak with the principal. And depending on how you manage the conversation, you may be able to say, okay, now this is something, I know you brought it to me, but the person best able to deal with this will be so and so, and you can redirect them. But we still have that ingrained stuff. I want to talk to the person in charge. And that's more a function, I think, of the smallness that we are and the greatness that we are.
Right, but that can be offensive to the team, because I was a teacher before, and I know personally I would want if there's a situation, I want to be aware of it. Give me that fair chance of saying exactly what happened between me and your child. So what is your take on that?
Let me say to the credit of teachers, and I'm sure it's happening everywhere, again with social media, a lot of teachers have opted to have their own WhatsApp chats and communicate. So like Mr. Smith said earlier, a lot of the issues get to us when they can't seemingly resolve them between the two parties involved. But when a complaint gets to us, then we of course have to investigate. I'll be honest, I know my teachers, and that's the mindset that I take on. I know my teachers, so if you're saying something, I could almost kind of align, but the parents have the right to complain.
Parents would say, well, I know my child.
Yes. And I know their child as well, because I spend most of that child's awakened hours are with us. And I don't think a lot of parents realize that. They spend most of the time that they're awake at school. But we still follow up because we don't take any complaint lightly. No. We're not here to judge, but we're here to get to the bottom of issues. And so once a complaint is made, we ask the parent to give us some time to investigate. Of course, the teacher is informed because we can't have an investigation about someone and they're not aware. And so we make those efforts, and then of course a follow-up parent-teacher conference will be held. And the goal of that conference, obviously, is to bring resolution and to serve the best interests of the child.
Yeah. So I always like to say I like to lie. I just lie up the front. I ain't got no nice lie. I just listen.
Explain.
Oh, okay. Right. So it's listen, L. Investigate, I. Inform, I. And that completes and closes the loop that Principal Darwell was speaking to. Whether you think it's valid or not, everybody has a right to have their voice heard. And when you remove that voice from them, oftentimes you are demeaning them or dehumanizing them. And their perspective is their reality. Oftentimes parents will come, and when you create an opportunity for everybody to come to the table in a neutral space, I'm not sure about Principal Darwell, but I try to have, and most times it's in the counseling area, because if it comes to my office, then we know we having some real problems. But I try to facilitate a lot of those in a counseling area or a neutral space where the student the parent, the teacher, the counselor, and myself or an administrator may be available, and give everybody an opportunity to speak. That way we're all starting on the same point. And then as the facilitator, we can address the questions where there's commonality or might be the point and draw it out. As like Ms. Darville says, certain times parents are, that's what you say? They're surprised at what the students' participation. And I can be real, y'all said to be honest, right?
Yes.
Sometimes we're surprised at what the teacher actually did. Right?
We must be mature enough.
Right. And at the same, with it all around one table, it can all come out in a controlled environment and we can address it when everybody's calm. But the critical part of it is giving everybody a voice, including the student. You can't leave them there just to spectate, because they're as important a voice in that table as because it is around them. They're the reason why we're there.
Okay, and we've run out of time for this segment. Interesting conversation so far. We're going to continue and we're going to pick it up right after this break.
Lights, camera, action! The Bahamas Learning Channel is back and revolutionized. The relaunch of the Bahamas Learning Channel is a timely, modern, and sophisticated undertaking geared towards the academic improvement of viewers of every age. New, creative, and imaginative shows are being added, and some of our most popular content is being upgraded. The Bahamas Learning Channel will provide engaging, cutting-edge, and interactive programs that will complement traditional classroom instruction and enhance the learning experience throughout our nation.
Welcome back to Ed Table Talk Unplugged. We're talking with the principal at S.C. McPherson School, that is Mrs. Shavana Darville, as well as the principal at T.A. Thompson Junior High School, Mr. Ishmael Smith. It's a pleasure continuing this conversation. Our topic is complaints, managing complaints and accountability in our schools. Okay, so I want to start with you, Ms. Darville. I'll continue with you. On this issue of managing complaints and dealing with parents. How do you determine if a parent, if their complaint is actually legitimate or if it's just a personal attack against the teacher?
Well, again, we begin with an investigation. First of all, the complaint is documented. And of course, the parent is asked to understand that we need some time to investigate. We have to find out what is happening from both sides. Sometimes it even involves other persons, maybe the student, maybe some other member of staff, so we need the time to investigate. And our investigation will help us determine whether the complaint is legitimate or not.
Exactly, that investigation, that's important. And it's not about like you mentioned earlier, oh, I know this teacher,
yes,
or I know this student. So it always makes sense, and it's a more fair chance to find out exactly what's going on.
And I say to teachers, if I may, I say to teachers as well, always document. Keep a record of your interaction between parents and students.
Yes.
The text messaging and the emailing is a really good source of documenting your interaction with the persons that you have to come into contact with. And that saves you most of the time. So that's another part of the investigation that we carry out. What information do we have logged on the situation, be it between the parent and the teacher or the teacher and the child?
Right.
And as Principal Darville would have mentioned it, with the advent of digital technology and media, I tend to tier things. If a parent comes with a concern, I will listen, but I also ask them, you know what, can you do me a favor? Can you quickly jot down what happened, the name of your child, the grade, the teacher, your name, and shoot it to me in an email. And I will try to respond to most inquiries or concerns within 48 hours, and that'll give us enough time. I find that when parents take the time to actually sit down and put that together, that is of a more serious nature instead of just a personal emotional response. Because I say to teachers and staff members all the time, there's a difference between reacting and responding.
Yes.
And what we want to do is respond and not react. And that process of being a formal language arts teacher, when you have to write something down, it helps you order your thoughts, but it also helps you process what's going on, because you have to reflect, you have to put it all together, and you have to send it in. And sometimes I find that they don't even send it, because as they think it through, they say, you know what, this really ain't what I thought it was. But if they go through and they take the time to compose and do, then that says to me that's something that needs immediate, like, red alert attention. Because we try to respond within 48 hours, if to acknowledge and to say, okay, we've acknowledged this, and I'll forward this on to so-and-so, whatever the process would be, and respond. And that helps a lot also.
Understood. Now, in the Bahamian context, we could be dramatic. What happens when those belligerent, those rude parents come on the scene?
For me, all right. So I try to give everybody a voice, all right? If you are engaging me in that level in the grounds, I will listen to you for a few minutes and say, you know what, this sounds important. We can go in the office. One of the first things you do is remove it from public view.
Yes.
Because public view causes, it fuels me and it fuels them. They can feel, now I know this patient ain't trying to talk to me in front of all these people. So in an effort to allow both of us to respond, we listen for a while. If I see the voices going up, and say, can you calm it down? I can't really hear you. But first of all, remove from the area. Then we can have a conversation. Try and maintain it so that I'm not going to raise my voice. I'm going to keep speaking in. I'm going to ask you to come here because I really can't understand you. Now, if it is someone who is being both belligerent, or let's say confrontational and aggressive, after a while I'm going to say, well, you know what? We can't really have this conversation right now. Let's set a time for you to come back. And if they want to be like that, I'm not going to engage in a back and forth. I'm just going to pick up the phone and ask security to come.
Okay. And how satisfied are parents and teachers when these situations are resolved, or hopefully resolved?
I think Mr. Smith hit on it a little earlier when he spoke about respect and giving everybody a voice. Once parents and teachers, even the students, once they realize that you are prepared to listen and hear them out, you respect them, you appear to be fair and not judgmental, then you tend to get satisfaction from all parties involved. And that's usually the tone that I take when I have to resolve issues. I establish what are the protocols for this meeting. All right, a prayer is always a good way to start a meeting because it brings a calming spirit over the room, the space. You'll be surprised. It calms the environment. And then you set the parameters. You allow each individual to have their say. We've been doing this, I would think, long enough that we could almost tell where the story is going. Almost who's on the right track, and when I say on the right track, so we've had this kind of experience, and it helps us when we have to bring the decision at the end of the conversation. But at the end of the day, the goal is the best interest of the child.
Exactly.
Yeah, the learner is critical.
And our time is gone for this segment. We're going to conclude our conversation on complaints, managing complaints, and accountability in our schools when we return.
Ready, get set, and off we go into the 2022-2023 school year. Students, as you prepare to return to the classrooms for full face-to-face instruction beginning August 29th, 2022, here are some tips to assist you in getting ready. Now is the time to re-establish an earlier bedtime so that when school reopens, waking up on time would not be a challenge. Establish an evening routine. For example, plan in advance a schedule for completing homework reading, playtime, and taking a bath. Review all health and safety protocols to ensure you remain safe when you return to school. Make your mark this school year.
Ed Table Talk Unplugged. We're talking with Principal Ishmael Smith and Principal Shavana Darville on this topic of managing complaints and accountability within our public school system. All right, so we want to conclude this conversation. We want to talk about programs, initiatives that may be in place for the staff and helping your staff to manage situations, helping them to be better equipped when someone comes from the outside in with a complaint. Let's start with you, Mr. Smith. Is there any kind of support at your school for this?
I don't know if I would say support, but I do know that we do have procedures. And if you want to call it, that's the thing. One of the things is communicate. Everybody has value. Everybody has a voice. I say to the staff all the time, and I can get in trouble for this, the most irrational, rational person that I've ever met in life is a parent.
Oh, wow.
When it comes to the child or someone they've given birth to or they're responsible to, they cannot see anything but the child and the issue and take the time to speak and take the time to give them voice and take the time to be respectful and courteous and to be professional, because it's communication skills.
All right, let's go to the staff morale, because I know that's been an issue for quite some time. Sometimes staff, they don't feel as though they're respected. That's teachers. They feel as though their voices are not heard, they're not understood. How do you address school?
Staff morale, big at my school. While the students are the most important group of people on the campus, I can't make their reality happen without the staff. And so we have to find time to celebrate them. There's Teachers Appreciation Week and month. There are social events that we host. I have an open door policy. There are times when you just need to vent. Feel free. If I'm walking the corridor, feel free to vent. Feel free to have a conversation with me. The school board, a great supporter of the school. We ensure that the resources are in place, because we cannot ask for excellence if we're not providing the materials that they need. So we try to take the burden of those kinds of concerns that we are able to manage either as an administration or the school board away from the teachers, so that when they come to work, they can perform the duties of a teacher and not have to worry about all the extras.
Great
And
stuff.
I find it important for us to remind ourselves that teachers are not the only components of a school campus.
Right.
All right? Because the teachers can't work in a room if the custodial staff or the health technicians are not there. The custodial staff, the student, the teacher, administrator can't move freely on campus if there's not recognition of the security personnel or the front gate personnel. And so it is everybody, everybody, from the cockroach to the eagle. Okay? Even the cockroach at T.A. Thompson is excellent. They're so excellent, they won't go away. Yeah, they wouldn't go away. They just keep coming to school. All right, but I'm just saying, it's everybody, and sometimes it is something that we do as administrators. I'll be honest to say it. Sometimes we become tunnel visioned, and it's just the teacher, but it's not just the teacher.
You know,
and COVID has proven that.
COVID has proven that.
COVID has proven that everyone
Everybody is
is essential.
Everybody's
So we
essential.
celebrate them all.
Celebrate them all.
Yes.
and I noticed that. I noticed that within recent weeks and months, there was not just a focus on teachers' appreciation. I saw security, the janitorial staff,
Yes.
secretarial staff, and I'm like, Wow, this must be really good.
Do you know that our staff had administrators appreciation
I saw that too.
and a principal's day? So I had
Now
my
that's-
own day
Right.
where they celebrated me. So
That's
it's a
when you measure where
collective
that's working.
effort on the campus to
Yes.
ensure that everybody knows his or her value.
Yes.
Exactly.
And try to move away. At TA Thompson, I'm trying to move away from appreciation. I'm trying to move toward a celebration.
Yes.
Because at TAT, this says that we are an excellent school producing excellent people. And it's TAT all day. So if it's about excellence, so I'm celebrating, we want to celebrate excellence in instruction. We want to celebrate excellence in support. We want to celebrate excellence in cleaning and whatever
Yes.
else. It's about celebrating excellence because that's the focus. And appreciate you, but if we're talking about excellence, and that's what we're celebrating, what you're able to do, not the fact that you are. Because I may think as a principal or a teacher, you should appreciate me because I as a teacher, not necessarily because of what I do. But if you aren't doing anything,
Right, right.
I'm creating a false narrative by celebrating your nothingness.
Exactly.
And if there's one thing I know, the quickest litmus or the truest litmus in a school are the students.
And so what about yourselves as administrators? I mean, at the end of the day, I'm sure you get weary sometimes dealing with situations, complaints, just leading the pack. How do you cope?
We know this. The complaints aspect is a part of our normal school day. We just have to prioritize what it is that we have to give attention to, because in addition, while parents sometimes don't quite understand, we still have deadlines, we still have commitments, we still have to ensure the smooth and safe operation of the school throughout the day. So you have to prioritize. You also team up. There are times when it may be a little bit extra for someone, we can share that or send that matter off to somebody else. Then find time for yourselves, all right? Sometimes you may just need to take that lunch break off campus. You may just need to turn the phone off 7, 8 o'clock in the evening so that you don't get another text message or another email that you're tempted to answer. So you have to find some time for yourself. We encourage our administrators to do that. Find some time for yourself. Remember that you have a life outside of the school environment.
Yes, don't we all need to learn that?
Yeah.
Triage. The physicians, healthcare does it well. They triage. Everybody's wounded, but some are closer to death than others. And that's what we learn to do. I think one of the hardest things to learn is what's really important and what's not, because everything is an emergency. Everything is due yesterday. Everything is due now. But some things are due more now than later now. And then reaching out to one another. Just a call, sometimes someone asks you, you still living? That just breaks the train of thought of whatever you're going on. You say, but you man, you're talking, right? But it helps break that. You just sometimes knowing that someone else is actually thinking about you, because as a person at the top, you're always thinking about everybody else. Always, passively, intentionally, you're always thinking about someone else. And sometimes you forget or you feel subconsciously that no one else is checking for you, because everything comes to the top. Very little comes to the top that says, yeah man, go get one Vitamalt on me. And then you have some teachers that do that, and you have some parents that do that, but still, by and large, you have to remember that, and reaching out to one another and creating that communication network with one another. You'll be surprised if Ms. Darvel may just call me, and I say, hey, and she's like, all right, just call in.
Wow.
I'm just saying, those are the things that you do. Those are real sanity breaks. And also, one of the hardest things is learning how to disconnect when 4 o'clock comes.
Same thing she is saying.
Yeah, you find yourself sometimes going home and you're no good to anybody, not even yourself.
True.
And just remember that you have other obligations.
Yes.
And it's hard to do that because you're always thinking of somebody else.
Right. Okay, and we'll end on that note. Thank you so much for joining in this conversation. It's certainly been a pleasure, and obviously there's teamwork there is cohesiveness, there is synergy. So I commend you as administrators for the awesome job that you're doing in running our nation's schools. To our viewers, if you would like to receive regular updates from the Ministry of Education, free direct text message notification updates are available. You can subscribe by texting 819-BMOE. That's 819-2663. And remember to visit our social media platforms, inclusive of our website, Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. Again, thanks so much for tuning in. I'm Adama Williams. We'll see you next time on Ed Table Talk Unplugged.